Hey there, geographers. It's Angela here. And in this brief video, I'm going to give you an idea of how I read. Now, how I read is not going to be how you read. We're all unique and amazing human beings. We all have our own style of learning, which means we all have our own style of thinking and reading. And thank goodness for that. So, I'm going to give you an example of how I read. Now, let's take one of our versions of our cultural geography book, Contemporary Human Geography, Culture. It's the same. Now, my main goal is to pick out textbooks that have a lot of strong visuals. I feel like this is a really important aspect into why I was motivated and drawn to geography. And the other thing about this textbook, it's not that big. Because guess what? I don't want you to have to purchase a textbook where there's going to be a lot of information that you don't learn. So I try to streamline things for all of us, especially for you. Now, let's go ahead and let's open up this textbook. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice about this textbook is when you open up all of the pages, it's going to be colorful and there are going to be a lot of maps. Obviously, this is a geography class. There's going to be a lot of images, photos, and there will also be charts, graphs, and other visualizations. Just lots of amazing, beautiful photos and the opportunity to learn in a very, very visual way. So let's say, for example, we are on the chapter that has to do with migration. We're on page 72, and you're looking at a chart here, and it talks about, oh, let me scoot over here. And this particular chart is referencing immigration, emigration, which means populations that are leaving a particular place, and net migration. So, migration meaning taking immigration and emigration, so people that are coming and people that are leaving, adding it together, and let's look at the amount of people that are moving around. Migration is basically a movement. And when we talk about migration in geography, we're mainly talking about the migration of human beings. So that is a particular chart. Did we just learn a lot from one chart? From one chart on a page. Have I read anything? No, I haven't. So let's clue in a little bit. How do you think Angela reads? How do you think I go through a chapter? Yep, you're right. I look at all the pictures first. Don't tell anybody. Is this a valid form of reading? Absolutely. So when I open up something, I go through the chapter and I look at the images, I look at the maps, I look at the charts and the graphs. Do you know how much I'm going to learn from just looking at those? Because then what am I going to do? I'm going to look down and I'm going to say, what is this chart? What is this map? What is this image trying to communicate to me? Am I going to learn something from that? Absolutely. And then let's take, for example, that same page that we were on, and we're going to go through and see, are there any words in bold, perhaps, on this page? Yes, there is a word in bold on this page, but has Angela referenced it in her module overview? Let's look at the module overview. Let's look at the lecture. No, Angela hasn't told me to learn about the word remittance. It's in the textbook and it's in bold, but has Angela told me that it's on our outline? It's on any of our learning objectives? No, she hasn't. So it's really important to connect with the learning objectives that I outline every week in our module overviews, because it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to want you to learn every single concept in this textbook. And if you go through the textbook and you look at the charts, the graphs, and the maps, and then you connect with that content within that chapter, guess what, folks? That's reading. Ultimately, a textbook is another tool to have in your tool bag. Does it mean that I'm going to follow it exactly to a T? No, and you don't want me to. I'm not a robot. I didn't learn like a robot, and I don't expect you to be robots. I want you to make the learning your own, and that starts with figuring out how you learn best, how you read. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about your learning style and your reading style, text me.